Good day and welcome. My name is Dawn, and this class today is a Yin Yoga class, which will focus on the legs. Okay, we're going to work mostly into the legs. We will be working into the hips, and there might be an opportunity to add arms, some shoulder work. But the main focus will be the legs. What you'll need for practice is a couple of blocks, at least one block. I always like to say, to have two. And you might benefit from having a couple of blankets. You can roll them up. We can use them. You can use them to sit on, actually, for your starting centering practice before we start class. And if you have a bolster, grab your bolster. You might need that. It might turn out to be really good to have. If you don't have a bolster, you could grab couch cushions or pillows, really anything. You could actually even take if you have an extra yoga mat, rolling it up and maybe putting a blanket around it, and you can use that as a bolster. So you can stop the recording, gather up what you need, and I'll meet you on the mat. All right, so let's get started. So to start, just come into a good seat, into a comfy seat. If your hips are bothering you a little bit today, you're always welcome to start class lying down. So you can just lay on your back and just listen to me for the first few minutes and follow your breath and just arrive. If you can sit, and you're okay to sit for the first few minutes, then that would be great. You might grab, as I did, of a blanket. I have it folded up a little bit here, a little bit of height, so I can just sit up on that, and it just brings my back into a more neutral, sort of natural position. All right, you probably can't see that. I've got this big sweater on, but just more of a natural position here. You could sit up in a cushion, you could sit on a meditation cushion, anything you wish. Or as I said, just lie back. All right, so from here, allow your bottom body to sink into the mat, into any support that you're using. Let your bones get heavy and drop towards the earth. And your upper body, allow it to find space between all the vertebrae, all the way up the back, to the neck, reaching the crown of the head towards the sky. Your hands can just lie gently on your thighs, if that feels okay. You can always bring them into your lap. Just find a place for your arms, your hands, that feels good and natural for you. And once you've found that good seat, bring your awareness to your breath, just noticing the inhales, where they land in the body, and your exhale. Notice the path it takes as it leaves your body. So as we inhale, we take up more space in the big Buddha belly. Our whole body appears to get larger. And as we exhale, everything comes back to center, back to closing in, coming inside, and letting go of that breath. So nice long inhale and long calm exhale. For the duration of the class, as we come into the different shapes, just come to your natural breath as much as possible. There might be times where it feels good to take longer, slower breaths. Just by listening to your body, you'll know and you'll feel that and you'll sense that. Sometimes to get deeper, we use a longer exhale. Sometimes to find some space, we use those deep inhales, sending the breath where we want, where we imagine we can send it. And then long, slow exhales. Just a couple more breaths here. Just arriving on your mat. If your eyes have closed, you can open them slowly, lifting your chin, opening your eyes, removing any support that you might have under your hips, just to start here. And we're going to come into our first pose is the long butterfly. So although it is nice to do the butterfly with your feet away in here or here or here, for today we're going to take the butterfly in a longer position here. For the purpose of this class today, I'm going to time us, of course. Sorry about that, I should have been ready. There we go. We're not going to stay in it for too long, but we are going to visit this posture a couple of times. So you might be just upright like so. That's great, that's fine. But with your exhales, you might be able to fold towards your feet. Don't be in a rush. Don't hurry to get there. There's really no place you have to be in this pose or in any of the shapes. But where you want to be is that place where you start to feel. So if you really have a lot of sensations, maybe in your inner thighs, maybe your hip, maybe your low back, just sitting upright, and just allow yourself to stay there. Don't imagine you have to look a certain way. Just stay here and breathe. As you soften into the pose, as your body finds more space, becomes more open, you might notice that you could fold a little deeper. If you are in this more upright position or in any position here, but you're a little bit rounded back, if your back isn't in that nice neutral place, if your hips are sort of rolling back like so, you might sit up on something. So this is where a block or whatever, but I like to just take the blanket, that little bit of height, that's very helpful there. And then just see how that feels. So if that's going to be helpful for you, use that. Use whatever you need. Let's stay here just a couple more breaths. As I mentioned, you can just allow yourself to breathe naturally, just your natural breath, your natural normal rhythm for you. But when we come into these shapes, sometimes it is helpful to extend the inhale and really a little longer extension of that exhale. It's quite calming. It is especially calming. It works on the parasympathetic nervous system when the exhale is longer than the inhale. So coming up, you might take your hands to the outside of your knees. Bring them in just for a moment here. We're going to come right into the next pose. We will take a break, but for now we're going to come right into the second pose here, which is half butterfly. Okay? Okay, and for here, so we'll start out with your right leg straight or towards straight, let's say. If your hamstrings are really tight, this is where those blankets could come in handy. You might roll up a blanket, put it under your knee, and that could feel really nice. If you don't need it, you don't need to use it, that's fine too. But just folding over that towards straight leg, over that right leg, to where you can. So you just want to find, again, you want to find a place where you start to feel. So we could call this our edge. That would be the first principle, finding your edge, finding that place where you feel. So the main principles, the main tattvas of the Yin Yoga, the first one is coming to your edge. So your edge isn't really pushing and striving and pulling. Your edge is where you start to feel. And when you start to feel, you breathe Sending the breath where you need it. Sending your breath to those tightest places. So if it is your hamstrings, I guess the place that's stopping you from going any further, right? So the first place where you start to feel. You might even take your hands and just getting in between into those hamstrings. That might feel nice as you're sitting here. And eventually just folding to where you can. And breathing. That's all you got to do. So letting your breath and letting gravity bring you into the shape. So on your next inhale, just coming up partially. You don't have to come all the way up. And then turning, you might widen that bent leg out a bit. Turning towards the center now, and again folding. So again, you could be upright and have a lot of sensations in your inner thighs, maybe a little in the outer thighs, maybe more in the hips, maybe into the low back. So wherever you feel, you feel. So just allowing that. So people ask me, where should I feel this? And really, there is no one answer. You feel it where you feel it. And so I kind of feel like it's where you are the tightest is the only way I can think about it, but where you're not as open. So that is the place that stops you. And until you find some space there, you will continue to feel it there, and that will be the place that restricts your movement, restricts you from getting any deeper into the shape. And that's fine. Absolutely not normal, natural, fine, good. You breathe into it, you find your place. Notice if with the breath and with just the silence and with just the holding in the shape for time, if maybe you could come a little deeper. So I did mention that the first tattva, the first principle, was coming to your edge. And so the next one would be holding for time. The fascia, the deeper the interconnective tissues are more plastic than the muscles, meaning that they take a little bit more effort. I don't want to use the word effort because we're not efforting. Efforting uses energy, right? So basically it just takes more time. And coming up just a little bit, I'll continue with that, but come on over that bent leg just to wherever you can. You might find you're up a little bit higher here. If you can fold over a bit over that leg, that's great. If you're over the left leg and your right hip comes up a bit, that's okay. You can push it back down or let it just come up a bit. That's not really the most salient feature of the pose, is whether or not that hip is down. We're just working on the legs. And we're finding a little twist and a little fold here over this left knee. So what was I saying? The second principle, yes, so time. So because the deeper tissues, the fascia, the interconnective tissues are more plastic than the muscles, it takes longer for them to release, to open, to, for you to find more space within your body and to find that flexibility and that relaxation within those tissues. It's a matter of just breathing for time, holding for time. So that's one of the magic components or magic elements here is time. So that time could be a minute or two, or 3 or 4, maybe 5 minutes, or it could be longer. Some poses that we really like, we stay in longer because, well, we like it, right? It feels good in the body and we're breathing and everything's great. The postures that are a little more challenging for us, we tend to not stay in as long. But that's where the work is. That's where maybe we need to stay a little longer. Listen to your body, though. Ultimately, it's up to you. It's your practice. You want to take care of yourself. All right, perfect. Coming up, nice and slow, always moving slowly. So it's not, we don't get hurt as we're sitting still in a pose for time at our edge. it's gently getting into the pose and getting out of the pose. And we move too quick and we're not being as mindful. So now the second round with that long butterfly, grab one of your blocks, or if you have anything, a little box or a little stack of books or something. And I'll show this from this view here so you can see it. So I'm going to be in the long butterfly, and I'm going to take this block, I hope you can see that, right there. Back it up so you can see it better. So you could start this way, as adding some distance there, and you'll notice it changes what's happening throughout the legs, right, and into the hip sockets here. I'm going to start with it on this level. You can start wherever feels good for you. Do not take the longest one because we're going to do that one next time, okay? Well, I mean, if you really want to and you want to do a couple like that, that's totally up to you. I'm not going to tell you what to do here. I'm just making suggestions. So it's the nice long butterfly. We will not hold this long. But just notice the difference when you add that distance. So your feet aren't right together, they're a little bit apart. So what happens throughout the whole legs now? What happens in the hips? Can you fold as far? Can you not? Where are the sensations now that we changed it up a little bit? So just noticing that. Maybe it feels not much different for you at all. So everyone is so different. We had such a different journey getting here, that to this point in our life, to whichever point you're at, that we feel things differently. We recognize that within our bodies, we need different shapes. We need to add or take away. We need to go deeper. We need to not go as deep. But some of these poses, it really, really shows that our journey has brought us to a certain point. And if we were in a classroom together, we'd see that everyone looks different. Everyone's doing the shapes a little differently, maybe staying longer, maybe not staying as long. So whatever works in your body. So just to recap, the first two principles, the first one is coming to your edge, so where you start to feel. And again, you move when you find that you don't have any sensations anymore, when your body opens up. Or you move to come out of the pose if you're in pain, or it's overwhelming, it's over the top for you. No, you don't need to do that. And the second principle that we talked about was time, because of the plasticity of these different tissues as compared to the muscles. And the muscles want to take over, right? All right, second side. Oh, yeah, actually, I'm going to turn this way. Just ease of showing you what I'm doing here. So the left leg is now straight or towards straight. I'm going to put the timer on here. And we face that left leg, that straight leg. Inhale to find a little bit of length, and exhale to fold to wherever you can. So that might look just like this. So it's really interesting to note the differences from side to side. So in all the shapes, wherever we have those asymmetrical shapes where we do one side, then we do the other. I love to make that little comparison for myself, just so I know where my body is at and what's happening. And have I set up the same? Is that why it doesn't feel the same? Have I set up differently? So just making those little adjustments so that you're the same side to side, and then noticing where you're at. Can you fold as deeply or not? And if not, why not? What's the restricting factor? Maybe truly it's just your body. It's just the way it is, right? And that's okay. Or maybe it's just this day, this moment in time that's just not working for you in the same way that it did maybe yesterday or the day before, the last time you practiced. All good stuff. So we talked about the edge. We come to the edge, and when you would come out the 2 times, you're in pain, or it's overwhelming, or your body opens up and takes you deeper, right? So you would move then. And the fact that we hold for time because the tissues, the fascia, that's more plastic than the muscle. They don't just open up. They have to have that signal. They have to know that that's really what you want, is for them to let go and to release. And the third principle is stillness. So holding in stillness the best we can. Okay? So again, that kind of takes us to, not moving unless, except for those two reasons. You need to come out because of pain, or you need to not go as deep, or it's overwhelming, if the sensations are too much, or your body's opened up and you're going to come a little bit deeper into the shape. So the stillness aspect, this is part of that whole holding for time. They kind of go hand in hand, and holding in stillness. Because when we move, when that area that we are working in the pose, in the shape, if we keep moving it, then to move it, we're using muscular activity. And I think you can tell by now that, we're trying to let go of the muscles. We're trying to relax the muscles, leave them out of the equation as much as possible, so that we can get a little deeper, so that we can get into those deeper tissues, so that we can get into the fascia. So stillness is one of the magic components as well. Well, I guess all three: the edge, the time, the stillness. But you do move if you need to move. Absolutely. Right? Take care of yourself. These are guidelines. These are not, we don't do it to our detriment. It should be enjoyable. That might sound funny if we're holding this for minute after minute after minute. I'm going, this is enjoyable. But it really should be. We do this for a reason, because it feels good when we're done. It feels really good when we're done. The benefits and the flexibility, the waking up in the morning and jumping out of bed instead of being so stiff. This is what's helping us to do that. All right, coming up and then folding over the bent knee. And in my case, that's my right leg. So I like to kind of work myself over a little bit. And then here we are. So again, maybe noticing, is it different than the first side? Is it the same? Am I deeper or am I not as deep? With the exhales. So you allow yourself to go deeper into the shape with the exhale. If your body opens up and it's asking you to go deeper, it's offering that to you. It's saying, hey, I feel a little looser now, and I want you to fold a little deeper. We do this on the exhale. So we inhale to find length, and then exhale for that depth. And again, if that hip's, so in this case my left hip is coming up, I can push it back down, or I can let it come up a little bit. Not necessarily making or breaking the pose if that hip is not down solid against my mat or against the floor here. Alrighty. Just a few more breaths here. One more breath. Notice where you're sending that breath. Send it to where the sensations are the greatest. And then on an inhale, coming up. There we go. And then from here, we'll go with my block. So now, this is going to be the last time in this long butterfly for this sequence. So you could forget about the blocks altogether. You don't have to use the blocks. You didn't have to use them last time. You could come back to just your feet together. You could be on the most narrow part of the block. You could be on that with the block down and it's a little bit wider. Or if you're up to it, you could try the widest and really notice that there's going to be a difference here in the inner thighs especially. So I will start the timer. We're going to try it for 2 minutes. Let's see what happens here. So this is why we want to do that long butterfly, the more yin butterfly, I guess. This is what we do in yin a lot. You know, well, we can do it any way we want, but for this one, we're having quite a bit of space between the legs. You might notice your knees are up a little higher. You might notice just changes the whole sense of like, what am I feeling? If it's hurting you anywhere, you don't want to do this. You want to get rid of that block. It's really just an option. I think it's kind of neat to change it up and try different things. But if it's not for you, if it's hurting you in any way in the hips, maybe in the ankles, in the knees, anywhere, ditch the block. Otherwise, if it's okay, then you try to fold to where you can. You just come to where you feel and notice in your stillness for your time, if that edge moves, if it opens up and allows you to sink a little deeper. Alrighty. A few more breaths here. Notice where you feel, if it feels, if it's in the same spot as the last one, or if it's changed, has it moved? Alrighty. And then from here, we're going to come into a little mini Savasana, so just lying on your back. Legs straight, if that's okay. And just take a moment here. I'm just going to grab something over here. So just staying in your Savasana. Oh, there it is. Alrighty. Just a couple more breaths, just lying on your back, just allowing yourself to feel all the work that we've already done, just to notice what you notice. And those sensations, if they were quite intense, just lying here in this little mini Savasana, noticing that the sensations start to dissipate, they start to go away, they start to come back to your neutral place where you started. And once you feel that and you feel like this is enough, we can move on. So the next pose is saddle. There's various ways you can do it. So with the blocks, you can, so saddle, you can have your legs, the way I'm going to show this today is you're between your feet, okay? So sitting here, you have a foot on either side. So you're not sitting on your feet, you're sitting on the mat or the floor between your feet. If that's too much for your knees, if that's like, oh my goodness, grab a block and sit up on your block. So that will take pressure on the knees for sure. Okay, if your ankles are the issue, and you could use another block, you could grab another one, or stack of books, whatever you have. Like, I mean, okay, so this is going to be our starting point. So starting where you are. And then from there, if it's your I was going to just say that if it's your ankles that are the issue, or maybe it's both, you're on a block, plus you're going to use a blanket, you could take your blanket. You might not need as rolled up as thick. You could have a blanket under the ankles. One on each side, maybe, right? Or this same one, bring it through. Or maybe you just need to sit up on something a bit more. So I'm going to just turn my back for a second just to show you that you could take the blanket, stretch it out, and then that'll be like a little hammock for you. So that might be helpful. for some people. Okay, so getting set up, however you're going to be set up, you can stay upright. This is saddle. It's one of the ways to do it. So then from here, I'm going to time us, you can start coming back. So you might just be here and breathing. You might, there's a lot of variations here. I want to quickly set up and show you. So you could have a couple blocks. Hopefully you can see that. I have one on the medium, one on the low, then a pillow, cushion, bolster, and you could come back. So this, you know, very supported, up nice and high. I have a foot on either side. If you need some support under the ankles, whatever you need, taking the knees wider apart might feel a little better for you. You can try it like that. Or maybe you just stay here like this on your hands. That's fine too, right? Or maybe you just stay straight up. Or you could take less height. You could use just one block. You could use just the bolster, or you could lie right down on the mat. You could be like that. Okay? So there are lots of varieties. So whichever one you're in, stay there. I'm coming in and out to show you different ways to do it. But you find your place and stay there. So for those of you that are thinking, oh my goodness, I can't do that. My knees, whoa, forget it, lady. You know, nice for you, Dawn, but no way. Maybe what you do, I'm just going to set up a little bit here with one block, okay? So maybe what you do is you have your bolster on a cushion, on a block, and then coming back, your legs, put your feet maybe on the edge of your mat, one on either, one on the right, one left, right on the edge of your mat, letting your legs fall to the left, and then this could be it. This could be it. You might take, so I'm going to the left, so I might take my right foot with my hand and see if I can bring it back. I'll show you on the other side. So then you would do that. I'll tell you when the halfway is up here. If you can, you could grab that leg like that. Okay? So those are different ways that you could do it. I mean, you could even do half saddle and stuff, but we're going to try it with just the full saddle. But in your variation, you might just have, like we do the twist with the legs to the side. You could even take, if you're going to the left, you could take the left leg, put on top of the right, have a little twist at the same time as we're leaning back here. So finding what might work for you. And if you are doing it that way, switch it up and try the other side now, because we're not going to stay much longer here. And if you do have your cushion, your bolster up on a block, and you're laying back and you think, you know, I could come lower, it's okay. So if you're here and you think, I want to come a little lower, just sit up slowly. Take your time, please. And maybe just move the block out of the way and say, I'm just going to try it with the cushion, with the bolster. Oh, that might feel nice. So you might come into one variation and decide partway through that, you know, that, wow, I can go way deeper than I thought. So you can do that. Or you might say, gee, I started too deep. So from here, then, you would prop up, make it a little higher. Or just come back to here. This is fine. Just a few more breaths here. And if you are in the version, like so, or here, other side, either there, or bringing that leg back, finding which one's going to work for you. So just letting yourself breathe and be there. And if it gets to be too much, you know what you do? You come out. You come out and you say, yeah, that was good. So when I designed the classes, I decided on timings. This one I'm going to hold for 2 minutes, this one for 5 minutes, this one for 3 minutes. But for you watching this and doing this, you want to come out early, you come out early. And the other side of that is, if you want to stay longer, you know, might be really good for you to stay for another couple of minutes in any one of these, if I'm not holding it long enough for you. All right, let's move everything out of the way. If you would like to come back into a little mini Savasana, you can lie down for a few breaths. If you would like to come into a child's pose variation, you could do that too. Just head down, arms wherever you want them. You could even take your knees wide and do it that way. So picking something that just might feel good for about 5 or 6 breaths. Maybe a couple more if you need it. And then when you're ready, we're going to do something else here. All right, so for the next pose, the next shape, it's dragon. And we're not going to hold it very long at all. So if you have blocks, move your stuff out of the way here, need a little bit of room. If you have blocks, grab your blocks. This would be a really good time to have those blocks handy. Alrighty, and I'm going to get rid of this blanket. Actually, you might want a blanket though, so I will keep it a little bit handy because I might want to show you something with the blanket. Okay, so to start out, you can come in from hands and knees or from down dog if that's what you kind of like to do. You can come into this shape any way that's going to be good for you. So you might just come from here, or you might just come from here and bring that leg forward. Alrighty, perfect. However you get in here. So I'm just going to move this for a second so you can see me. So here I am, my right leg is forward, my left leg is back. Maybe you're closer to here. If you have a lot of sensation in that back leg, in the front of that back leg, then this is where you stay. Hands down, framing that front foot, or on blocks, Okay, so however you wish to use your blocks or really want to or need to today. It's all good. If this is not giving you enough sensation, you simply bring that foot back, step it back, step it back, step it back. And then you can leave your toes tucked or at the top of your toenails pressed into the mat, more traditional. All right, so settling into this one. Again, we're not staying long, okay? So we're already gonna move a little bit. So what we're gonna do is, hopefully you have your blocks handy, bring them back. So back to around where your hips are, I guess. Maybe a little bit in front of your hips. Let yourself put weight into the blocks so that you can sink deeper. So we don't want to be holding ourselves up. We want to be able to come as deep as possible. And by using the blocks, or lower maybe, that might be better for you. Just finding that place so you can open up and sink nice and deep. Alrighty, do one more thing here. You can keep the blocks or not. Bring both your hands to the inside of that foot. So you could have both blocks. You could have forearms on the blocks. You could have one block, or you could have no blocks. Okay? All good. They're all good. They're all good options. The reason I say that is if you're here and you have tremendous sensation and you don't want to go deeper because it really doesn't feel good in your body, then this is where you belong, and this is a great, great option for you. So find that one that's good for you. And then one more breath. From here, both hands, framing that front foot, tuck the back toes, and come back into some kind of version of a down dog. It doesn't have to be some kind of great down dog. I'm not. This is just a counter pose. You can move your hips, you can move your legs, do whatever feels good. We're not trying to have a nice, perfect down dog. You can have your legs wider. You can bend your knees. You can do like the puppy dog, whatever you want. Eventually, taking it to the second side, either from down dog or just from hands and knees. So now it's going to be the left foot forward. So you could be here. My sweater is kind of dark here. You don't really see things. So it's my left leg forward, and my right leg could be really close up here if I have a lot of sensation. And don't forget, you can have your blocks here if you need them, want them, choose to use them, just like that. Or you can step that back leg back until you start to feel something maybe in the front of that back leg. All right, just a couple more breaths here. And you can press the toenails in, or you can keep your foot tucked, whatever feels good for you. So one more breath here. And then we'll come into the next part here where I'd like you to use your blocks as much as possible. And again, the reason is without the blocks, yes, I can come up, and I've done this so many times, but I still know that even without the blocks, I am holding. I have to use some energy to hold myself up. With the blocks, I can release down. So I'm cutting off my head there in this, aren't I? Whatever. Okay, so you could try them back nearer to your hips and just let yourself sink. And then maybe switching lower. Maybe you could take them really low like so. But try to keep your back straight and keep yourself upright. And then to do that, we're keeping the blocks back a little bit. Maybe a little bit of height is better. Now from here, with or without your blocks, whatever you did on the last round, you can bring both hands to the inside of that front foot, either up on blocks, elbows on blocks, whichever height, however many blocks you wish to use, or all the way down onto the mat. Your forearms can be all the way down if that's in your practice, if that's what you can do. So we're going to stay here for a couple more breaths. One more long, deep inhale. And then open your mouth and release it. And tucking those back toes, coming up and into kind of like some kind of playing around down dog here. Feet wide, feet narrow, long dog, short dog, whatever feels good. Moving maybe from side to side. And then eventually onto your knees. We'll take a little child's pose just for a couple of minutes here, maybe a minute. So either knees together or knees apart, okay? So if your knees are together, you're sitting on your feet, and when you come forward, you're bringing your forehead down to the mat, and you're squishing, so it's not as easy to breathe. But what's neat about it is you get to send the breath to the back body, so that's pretty cool. You can do that. And all the same things apply. If this is too much for your knees, you can find something underneath your hips. If it's your ankles, put something under your ankles. If you prefer, like you don't like that compression here, that restriction in the breathing, open your legs up and come between them. You can do that. If none of these work, no problem. Always an option to do something different, right? So this could be your child's pose. You're laying on your back and you're hugging your legs down. It's the same shape, you can see. But now I don't have pressure on my knees. I don't have, you know, like my back, everything's out of the equation. I'm just laying here hugging my knees. So that's an option. You can even do this one wide if you like. So finding something that's going to work for you. And we're going to be here for just a couple more breaths. Really noticing if you can send your breath into the back body and into the side body. Just notice when you inhale into that back body, the back of your lungs, or into the side, into your ribs, how that expands. Because we breathe into the front, right? We all do that. We don't realize how much more space we have to breathe. The capacity of our lungs, we can do that. We can send it to the back body or the side body. So it's kind of cool. So when you're ready, coming on up, we have one more shape and we're going to be done for today's class. So it's a supported bridge. If you know it, you know where I'm going, you can get yourself right into it, of course. But I will, of course, demo it. Coming on, you're going to be on your back. Have your blocks handy, have at least one block handy. Coming onto your back, and your knees are bent. Okay, we've got lots of stuff in the way here. Hope you can see me. So from here, bend your knees and push into your feet, into the soles of your feet. Lift your hips just enough so you could slide a block under your sacrum. So you don't want it up so high it's in your back. No pinching, no discomfort. Just under that flat part there, behind, like just of the sacrum there, right there, that flat part. That's what you want to, let me start the timer, lay on. You can stay here, or you can straighten your legs. So that might feel good. That's a whole opening for the whole front of the body. Nice extension through the whole front of the body. That feels kind of nice. And the thing to do here is, again, letting go of the efforting. Don't hold yourself on the block. Let the block hold you. So see if you can get heavier. More comfortable, more heavy. Breathe into it. Just sink into the support. Let that support hold you. If you did straighten your legs, now you're like, I don't really like that. No problem. You just bend them. Just be mindful. Just do it nice and gently and slowly. You bend your legs. So this is it. Such a nice pose. You can stay here just like this. And if you don't think this is enough for you, grab a second block. I don't use them this way because they're unstable under the hips. I always use them that flat way. So pushing in to the feet, you could add, just stack them up. So now you've got that height, right? You could stay here, or again, if you liked that straight legs, now you have more of a back bend and a lot of extension, like opening all along that front body. Just a couple more breaths here. I said it wouldn't be long. It's not going to be. So if you did add that second block, and you have your knees straightened, bend your knees, push into those feet, remove one block, come back down, so now you're on one. If you were already there, that's great. We're all together now. We're all at the same place. And then from here, just for a couple breaths, you can lift those legs. You can actually just keep them bent. You can have them towards straight, or you can have them very straight. Little bend of the legs is nice. It reverses the fluids. If you're on your feet all day, this feels really nice. It rejuvenates the legs. And just a few breaths here. You could hold this actual posture for 10 or 15 minutes, no problem. And you can use a wall. You could just come right up to the wall And put your feet up against the wall, so as if the wall was behind us here and the feet were leaning into the wall. Feels really good. And if you are against the wall, you don't have to use the block. You could just be like so against the wall, if that feels better for you. And there's always the option to use a bolster. That's more comfortable for a lot of people. So coming out of that, removing that block when you're ready, bring your feet down and making any last movements. If there's any movements you'd like to make, if you wanted to do a little happy baby, if you want to hug your knees in, if you just wanted to make some circles, anything at all. And when you've done that and you're ready, and that's enough, class is over, extend those legs, Savasana. Oh. Staying here in your Savasana for as long as you can. If you can stay there for another 5-10 minutes, please do that. Thank you so much for joining me today. And I hope this class served you in some way. It's such a joy to offer this for you. And I'll see you again soon. Thank you. Namaste.